Alright, so we got Dark on the right side in red, who's actually really climbing up the ladder in a recent memory. So he's 60th on the leaderboard right now, and he has improved immensely. I think when I saw him first on Woobly, he was like 1800 or something. So now he's actually in the top 75 people, which is pretty admirable, and he's a very young player as well, so he's got a lot of room to improve. He is now in a team with players like Winchester, so he's got a lot of potential to really improve his skill set. Yeah, Dark is actually pretty high rated, and I don't think that rating is completely unjustified seeing the previous game. He's got some decision making to clean up, but in terms of like quick walls and micro, he was actually looking pretty sharp. So if this wasn't, like, if I didn't see the names, I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell that this is Dark, just based on the gameplay he's doing, because he's having some pretty clean moves, I would say. Anyways, Dark is playing Mongols in red, right side, left side is running as Berbers in blue. Running's map isn't great, to be honest. In fact, it's pretty bad. Both of the stones are bad. The gold, not a fan. The right side is just way too open for this. Other side, Dark also is a pretty bad map if you ask me. The berries are actually reasonable. Gold is something he can work with, and he has a stone at the back. It's just a matter of this part being quite open, but definitely a better map than running. Now, speaking of Berbers versus Mongols, it's actually a fun matchup. You got one of the best unique units in the game for a Mangudai, and you got a counter unit to that, the Camel Archer. So if this is random civs, it was actually pretty lucky for running, who is going for a premium rush here. So here comes the Drush, going for the berries, as you would expect. Other side, we are gonna have apparently maybe straight archers, because it's 4 on wood. Nope, it is looking like it is a Man-at-Arms build from Dark. Here come the militias from running, and I don't think those villagers have loom. Actually, they do. How are they so low HP? I have no idea, but that is no villager killed. Running might have been a little bit too greedy over there. Loses a lot of HP on the scout as well. So Dark apparently survives the initial scary moments, and indeed it's a Man-at-Arms play from him. It's actually a 21 pop Man-at-Arms play, which is definitely doable with Mongols. He has taken quite significant beating on many of his villagers, so he needs to be careful with those, not to lose them. And his food eco isn't going to be the best either, because he had to abandon his berries. Other side, what is running up to? Running, he is... he shouldn't have this villager picked off. Indeed, he's pulling the second one. But Dark could actually commit to this one. Running, trying to quick wall his villager in. That is 2 more hits, and that's going to be a villager killed. Nope! Oh, that was so close for Dark. I feel bad for him. I feel like it would have been worth it to commit to that. And he committed to it. It might seem a little bit greedy, but I feel like that was okay. I think it was just like a split second. Dark's scout was already lifting the sword to strike, but the TC was a little bit faster. It was really like a split second deciding things. And that is actually important, because now Dark doesn't have his scout, something that could have potentially prevented a walling like this, for example. If he has kept his scout alive at full HP, that scout could have tried denying this villager from walling, running, trying to rush up the walls. Remember, those walls are a lot weaker now after the nerf, so Dark could still try to bash his way in, and indeed, as I said, those walls are super weak, and the Man-at-Arms are in. So now this is actually pretty bad for running, who's actually going for a pretty greedy Drush FC, if you ask me. He's just going for loom here, which is a little bit surprising considering that he saw the militias or Man-at-Arms coming in here. Anyways, now he's gonna decide to take this fight, even try to trap his opponent, but that is going to be delayed FC. In fact, this isn't really going to be an FC. He is still in Dark Age. He will eventually go for a fast castle leader, but it's going to be more like a slow castle, because it's going to be 30-31 villagers by the time he gets the amount of resources he needs, especially with this much idle time. At this point, Dark is perfectly fine running around with Man-at-Arms and being annoying. because he knows that his opponent is going for a Drush FC, so what he needs to do is pretty much just boom his way up to castle, or potentially add a few archers here. But yeah, I totally agree that now that the Palisades were nerfed, Man-at-Arms are a lot more reasonable, and look at that, he's just running around. He doesn't want to fight. He is idling 4 Voyagers with 3 Man-at-Arms, running, trying to do the quick walls though. Still, at this point, eventually there will be archers coming in from Dark, so I guess he wants to keep the Man-at-Arms alive until he can bring in a few archers, so the archers can support fighting against the Voyagers, and for now he's just running around. As I said, his micro is actually pretty sharp. So if you look at Dark, he had 14 sec. Actually, he had 10 seconds of TC idle time only, which is not a lot. In fact, he even garrisoned the archer inside a TC to heal it. And behind this one, he's running around. Get it? Running around and being annoying, which is what matters the most, right? So that Man-at-Arms is gonna go down. Interesting decision to split up his forces over here. I guess he's just trying to look for his opponent building buildings, and that isn't really going to be enough food for running to click up unless he's selling wood. But he's even low on wood if you want to sell it, because he's gonna need 2 buildings, probably stable or potentially archer range. Blacksmith? Or is it gonna be market blacksmith here? Because he's sending Voyagers to stone. If he's sending Voyagers to stone, this is a straight camel archer play, and that would probably come with a market blacksmith. Indeed, here is the market. Now that the Man-at-Arms are cleaned up, archers could try to be a little bit annoying over here, but probably will not inflict any significant damage. Indeed, market blacksmith is the name of the game here for running. But if you take a look at Dark, I mean, he isn't impossibly far away from clicking up to Castle Age, especially if he makes a market and buys a little bit of a food here. So if he stops making archers for a brief moment, as he loses 2 of the archers, I just praised his micro, and then he ran into the TC5. I think there was some nice quick calls here from running to assist that. But yeah, running is gonna have to buy 100 food at minimum. Here it goes, bought 100 food, garrison the Voyagers, and now up he goes. As I said, running isn't lagging that much far behind though. The problem for running is that he didn't really get anything out of his Fuel Age Archer build. So he's at free military right now. Isn't impressive, but he probably doesn't want to really get beaten into Castle Age here. Getting housed over here quite heavily. Other thing to point out for Dark, he didn't scout this one. So there is going to be a hole on his walls. That's something that once again he has to improve on. Right, archers, apparently are just gonna run around. I thought they will be sent in separate directions to do some scouting. Speaking of scouting, 2 of the neutral golds, well, not really neutral golds, these are the golds of running, these are the secondary golds of running to be precise, are in the front, quite exposed in the middle of nowhere and the hill in front of them, so that's actually great for Dark, because he can just push away running from that gold mine relatively easily. Although the same thing persists for Dark as well, so both players have rather exposed gold mines. This neutral gold mine is pretty interesting, and this one is also benefiting running over here. I would think that running's neutral gold mines are a slightly bit better. Like, there is one in the corner here, and there is one over here as well. One of these should belong to Dark. I think this is the one that should belong to Dark, but that's quite lucky. Gold mine spawn for running. Anyways, he's gonna make a market wall here. He isn't gonna finish it. Just go up to like 250 HP, and the archers will never get through. And now running is gonna be able to buy 100 stone and drop a castle right over there. I actually thought he's gonna drop it over here, but this also makes sense. For him, he's gonna go for camel archers. So what is Dark gonna go for? I could make an argument for just pushing with crossbows and like potentially forward siege workshop mangonels to try and push your opponent away from the gold mine. Because the castle is far away from the gold, so you could potentially push this one, and you can mass crossbows a lot easier than camel archers. So that could be a reasonable way to play this one for Dark, who's also on the way to Castle Age. Ecos are pretty much even, of course. None of the players lost any Voyagers, I believe. So yeah, by the time Running's castle goes up, Dark is also going to be up to castle age, pretty much. Double bit axe, archer armor. He of course has fletching by now, I believe. And looking at the resources, he's gonna be able to squeeze in Botkin at least, but potentially even crossbowman upgrade, especially if he cancels some of the villagers queued up over here. You shouldn't really have 3 villagers queued up right now, just it's enough to have 1, and indeed he's doing that. Cancels 2 wheels, he's gonna get crossbow and Botkin. And he will try to push the gold mine. Technically he could try getting in here, because he could take that part down, and he could potentially try hitting the gold mine from this side, but it's a little bit tricky. This TC is actually a nice spot. Running is gonna have a second TC over here, preventing entry from this direction. And he's gonna stonewall left, so he's gonna play quite defensive. Castle protects the left side, stonewall protects the far left, and the 2 TCs protect the right side. Crossbows are in here though. And right now, Running is not really going to have a super safe gold income. If this is followed up by a forward siege workshop, things could get pretty problematic for Running, and it is followed up by a forward siege workshop. Indeed, there is the villager. Eventually, there is going to be a few camel archers over here, but as you see, they don't really have Botkin arrow right now, and it's only 3 of them. And considering that Dark is fully evolved, even scouted the hole over here on the right side, those guys aren't really going to inflict a lot of damage. Just a few crossbows from Dark can clean it up. Defensive siege workshop is coming in from Running. Dark does not know about the castle. He will soon find out, but he picks off 1 villager on the farm. Running deletes the farm so the villagers don't go over there to get picked off again. And there is the siege workshop Running coming in with a mangonel pretty soon. Here come the camel archers. Dark reacts immediately, and he's probably going to divert a few crossbows to this location. Both players playing at a 1 town center right now. That mangonel is going to be a lot faster for Running, but I still like the position of Dark a lot more here. I don't like the fact that Dark is actually taking all the crossbows back though to chase those camel archers. You'd never want to chase camel archers like that. Look at that. He's trying to look for them, but it's just hopeless. And Running is gonna go back to his own base and just be fine. I don't think it was necessary for Dark to send back all those crossbows, because it takes so much time. That being said, the mobility advantage is definitely on the side of Running over here. And one thing that really stands out is that Dark is making a university and he's piling up a lot of resources. Is he planning to go Imp here? Isn't that a little bit too premature? He needs a second building for that, and he could still go just ballistics. But the fact that he's stockpiling 600 food is quite surprising, if you ask me. Mangonel pops out, picks off 1 villager. The problem is that this mangonel isn't really protected from the camel archers, so you need those crossbows on the front line. So there's still a huge amount of food in the bank. As I said, you want your crossbows protecting that mangonel from the camel archers, because camel archers can out-micro the mangonel quite easily. Nice move from both players, actually. That's a big mango hit, but eventually we'll end up with like a free crossbows and a mangonel trade for 1 mangonel. Not the best, but at least it's something for Running, and of course for Dark. He needs to make sure that the crossbows are close to the mangonel, because camel archers can out-micro mangonel pretty easily. Anyways, Dark, 1,100 food. What is he up to with that? Like, he could legit click into Imperial with that much food. Or is he just forgetting about his food eco? Because if so, he could like send 3 villagers from food to stone. He's now rushing up a market. Makes me believe that he wants to just balance out his eco. He's also floating a lot of gold, which is surprising. He's not making archers on any of the ranges. This is why I believe that he's actually stockpiling resources to click up into Imperial here, instead of, you know, just spending those resources balancing out his eco. So this might be intentional to have 1.2k food in the bank. So he might just sell a little bit of food and click up into Imperial, even though, as I said, he's still missing the second building. Actually, no, he isn't missing it, because he has Siege Workshop, and indeed he's going for a quite fast Imperial. By the way, behind this one, Running is on 3 TCs, so there is a considerable villager lead now for him. What is Imperial going to give for Dark? Probably a forward castle over here, so he can actually deny those golds. and Trebs. I think that's the key thing here. He will be able to get that castle up because he's gonna have the crossbows and mangonels to fight against the camel archers and mangonels. And I don't think it's going to be about the Mangudai, it's going to be about the Trebs. And being able to trap that castle down with your faster Trebs. There is 1,000 stone in the bank for running, and I believe, considering that this position is safe right now, this would be the moment to get a castle up over here. And I think he's doing that. And I believe that this is not a move that Dark should have made. Because once again, the Mangonel is completely defenseless against the Camel Archers. If the crossbow stayed here, alongside the Mangonel, this wouldn't happen and you could drop your forward castle over here. But now it's not really an option, so I guess plan B for Dark would be to drop a castle somewhere around over here, but it's going to be tricky. It's really going to be tricky. There are some skirms coming in, and Dark is pulling the boys. It's going to be a castle, maybe on this hill, but if you drop your castle on this hill, running can expand to this direction. One thing that would have been nice with a castle here for Dark instead, is being able to trap that castle on immediately. Nice mango micro from both sides, but eventually I think Dark is gonna lose that mango, and running, nice defense for him. And here comes the castle. Running is still pretty far away from Imperial. He's got stone to drop a castle. Like, at least almost has enough stone. He could buy 100 to do that. Once again, the other problem here for Dark is that his castle isn't finished by the time he's reaching Imperial. If you want to play it like this, you need to get your castle up by the time you're in Imp. Because now, Running realizes what's going on, and he's gonna come in with the Mangonels and the Camel Archers to stop this castle. Like, this castle should have gone up a little bit faster because you already want to be producing traps here. This is not looking great for Dark, not gonna lie. Especially considering that the Mangonel, even though it gets a big hit on top of the Camel Archers, you don't want your crossbows fighting as the Mangonel and your Mangonel against the Camel Archers, but that's a fight that Dark still wins. So, next step for Dark, he needs a trap immediately. In fact, he's already late. Because if you see this, look at that. Running already is piling up resources for Imperial, because he realizes that the plan here for Dark is to trap down the castles before his opponent could counter-trap it. But, as I said, he pretty much wasted a lot of time being late with this castle, and now Running is also going up to Imperial. Mass evacuation of the economy coming up over here on this wood line. There isn't really a lot of reasonable wood lines for Running, so he's pretty much just running away from his base right now. One of the gold mines will be denied, but that isn't really an immediate problem for Running. Still, it's going to take some effort to defend against this one. The thing is, however, that you want that trap to be trapping down castles and not TCs. Because if you don't trap down the castles, Running can just mass the Camel Archers and they'll become so devastating once you have good numbers. Now, Dark could actually play this one with Elite Skirms for some time until Running doesn't add a few Knights or Light Cav. But right now, Elite Skirms might work out fine. And truth being told, Running might be without town centers very soon. He could, however, send his Camel Archers to counterattack. Running is on 3 TCs, but he's losing quite a lot of them rapidly. Mangonel shot is actually pretty huge. Can he get a second one out? He actually can. Nice split though from Dark, and now he's starting to kill villagers. There is a 20 villagers lead for Running, but that is going to decrease because Running is losing villagers over here, and he is going to lose the TC. That's the Imp TC! That's the Imp TC for Running! No way! And 2 traps are actually enough to melt it very fast. I think he can actually get the Imp out just in time, but imagine if Dark actually started trapping that down first. Yeah, he's gonna have to repair. He's gonna have to repair, and he is going to be able to squeeze an Imperial Age here just in time. I feel like if Dark went for this TC first, it could have been a lot worse. Now, Camel Archers are coming in, but those are still without Imp upgrades, and that's a lot of Elite Skirms with almost full upgrades, so I'm not sure if this is actually worth it for Running. He's losing a lot of precious Camel Archers, and right now Running is without TCs, so he is going to play Nomad from now on. More archer ranges for Dark. He is going full elite skirm. University for running. So apparently he was without ballistics and chemistry. Of course he was without chemistry because he just reached Imperial. But also he was without ballistics, which actually hurts quite badly for Camel Archers. And honestly, this is looking good for Dark. He's got the score lead. There is only a 7 Villagers lead right now for running. But running is without town centers. And there is a castle that's gonna be absolutely molten. And the skirms will be able to defend this one without problems. If running had 5 knights over here, this would be GG. And I think Dark is actually preparing for knights to arrive because he's adding spearmen, even though those aren't really going to do much against units in Imperial. But I feel like running is giving up this castle super easily. And remember that this gold mine is pretty much gone for running. This one now is quite contested. And this gold mine is running out, so... Well... Running is running out of options here, goes for Light Cav. So I think that against Light Cav, even if Dark gets the few pikemen out, he might be able to edge this one out. Takes down the stable, which means that those Light Cav will have 0 upgrades. Look at that. No scaleboarding, no forging, only bloodlines. So that's actually a nice move from Dark. He could actually finish off the market, so it's a little bit harder for his opponent to balance out his eco as well. I think that running is in huge trouble. In fact, I think he should be going for knights in this situation, especially considering he cannot squeeze in the upgrades for his cavalry. He's just going for scaleboarding, but he's about to lose the second castle, making a house with what is 29 villagers. Probably not the most efficient. He could try getting a mangonel out and finishing this one off, to be honest. It's a little bit surprising that running isn't going for that, because he has the goal to do that. Trying to get a mangonel out. Mangonels would also be reasonable against the skirmishers. I think Dark actually sees the Light Cav switch, so he's gonna be prepared for that. And you can see that Light Cav without armor are actually getting molten by skirms. Of course, once you have good Light Cav numbers, they will still kill skirms, but you need a lot of time to get good Light Cav numbers, and they at least need +2 armor. That's another castle going down for running. He's without town centers, he's without castles. Now Dark has a 10 villagers lead over here, and he's taking over. He went to Imperial with like 50 villagers, but here comes trouble for him. There is a lot of Light Cav, Monk trying to convert, and honestly, that's actually looking pretty bad for Dark now. In terms of this fight, he's gonna lose his entire army, potentially all his trebs, and yeah, Mangudai aren't really going to do a lot of good over here for you. Those Light Cav actually just have +1 armor. Imagine if they actually had +2, or preferably the attack upgrades. Now, running doesn't want to throw away his Camel Archers, because if he does that, he's gonna die to Mangudai. But the Light Cav are really paying for their price over here. Running just needs to pull back his Camel Archers, because wasting them like that is absolutely awful. More and more Light Cav on the way. And maybe we're gonna get a good game today, because let's be honest, if running wins this without town centers, I can make a huge clickbait to YouTube from this. So, that's -2 traps. Camel Archers are so awful at killing traps. But eventually, now it's Light Cav coming in. Interesting that running is going for a counterattack, goes for +2 armor, and I think he's stabilizing, still without a town center. I feel like he should make at least 1 TC, because he's 78 villas, so he wants to keep adding villagers. Otherwise, he's gonna be stuck at this low eco for quite a time. Light Cavs, still just +2 armor, so TC Fire is gonna do quite a lot of damage on them. But now, they are hitting the eco of Dark. Now, I like the fact that he's splitting up the Light Cav so he can actually hit the food eco quite heavily. But behind this one, his gold mine is also getting pushed quite hard. Mangudai are on the field now as well. But there is 49 villagers on food. Just, he shouldn't throw away those Camel Archers against the skirms. This might actually lose him the game. He's losing the Camel Archers to the skirms when he has no other castles. In fact, he has 0 stone income. So once he loses the Camel Archers, Mangudai will melt everything. Why is he even running around? He's trying to kill the Mangudai, but I feel like if he just kept adding the Light Cav and just kept going in on the skirms, he would be fine. I feel like sacrificing the Camel Archers when he doesn't have a single castle isn't really worth it to deal with just a few Mangudai. It's just a lot better to just flood the map with Light Cav and just accept the fact that these few Mangudais here will pick off a few of those light cavs, because you don't want to lose your camel archers. By the way, the other stone mine for running is over here, which is inaccessible. Fun fact, he didn't scout this corner, so he's missing out on a gold mine and a stone mine. If he had a slightly better scouting, he would be able to scout that, and right now he's behind by 30 villagers, but there is a considerable military advantage for him, also in terms of unit composition, which is pretty important. So, like, the light cav here are actually doing the work, cleaning up the skirmishers. Apparently, Dark is adding quite a lot of stables, so he's thinking about his own hussars or maybe camels. He's got quite a few pikemen on the field. Not a lot of upgrades, it's just a matter of defending the farming eco. The other neutral gold mine is now in the hands of Dark. He also picked up 2 relics here, but Running gets his stone mine back, and I think he's going to be very happy with that. He's just running around right now, hitting villagers left and right, and he could come back into this one. He could legit come back, and because now he's hitting the eco of Dark, and Dark isn't really inflicting any damage on the eco of Running right now. In fact, Running is just happily adding villagers on that single TC, getting stone so he can drop a castle here, for example, and once again start the camel archer production. Nice quick pause from Dark over there. There are still some light cavs on the right side, so this wood line is abandoned for the time being. And as I said, Dark is just too busy dealing with these raids. And here come the camel archers. The value you could get out of those guys is just absolutely huge now, because those villagers could get picked off. If you sent like 1 or 2 camel archers to the other side of the wood line, that would be an even more jackpot. And the Dark is losing villagers. Running could come back into this game playing with like no town center for 10 minutes or so game time. That's actually sick. And now you can see why camel archers are amazing against Mangudai. Mangudais are actually almost fully upgraded, so camel archers without elite aren't necessarily the best here. They're also missing the extra armor upgrades, but they will perform decent. And it appears that Dark is gonna start adding Hussar himself as a meat shield. Remember that this is still not over yet, because yes, Running is flooding the map with Hussar, but once Dark can get to reasonable Mangudai numbers, he can just melt those Hussars, and he still has a 20 villagers lead. So as long as Running isn't able to mix in new camel archers to deal with the Mangudai, this is not over yet. And this is why it is so important that Running lost his castles, because if Running still had his castles up, this would be over, and Running would be victorious, because he could replenish the camel archers and deal with the Mangudai. Right now the problem for him is that he doesn't have a unit that deals with Mangudai, and that is because he lost all his castles. He's very close to dropping another castle, which should be over here on this hill, but we have some light cav raiding the eco as well. We also have some light cav on the other side. Dark goes for the farming eco here. I actually like that move. Running's eco is still pretty fragile, and more importantly, we can have like a little bit of a Mangudai micro would be nice here. That's actually a pretty neat choke point. And those light cavs now have full upgrades, but still, more and more Mangudai are coming up on the field for Dark. And as I said, there is still no counter unit on the field for Running. Running has 4 camel archers without elite. He's now making the castle, so he can start replenishing his camel archer numbers. But you really gotta ask the question, is it gonna come too late? Because he's down to 77 villagers, and he's pretty much getting squeezed into this corner without a lot of gold accessible. If only he knew about this stone and gold. Which is also one of the moral of the story here. Always scout these unscouted areas. Don't leave it like this, because this is where resources like to hide. He would have a safe gold at the back and a safe stone as well, which would be immensely helpful in the current situation. He could have gone on stone a lot earlier, because he had to fight for this gold. He could have gone on this stone without any problems. And now the camel archers are dead. There's a trap in here. Interesting decision. I don't think this is gonna work. You're going to make a trebuchet here to trap this castle down. Mangudai will dive in and snipe that trap. And Running apparently taps out once he sees the light cav getting into his eco. But this was actually a very, very good game, so I guess this goes into YouTube. Running, I feel like he could have won it even without TCs if he doesn't lose his castles. Those castles being killed was actually a huge issue for him. But yeah, this was a very, very back and forth game. So A lot of turnarounds in this one. KD pretty close. Dark with 20 buildings killed against 2 though is kind of indicative of how the first part of the game went. And also Dark 115 villagers. He was behind for quite a lot of time, but then Running just lost all his DCs, so Dark was able to catch up. And at the end of the day, gold count is nice, but 4,000 extra wood for Dark helps out quite massively.